Well, who would have guessed the Brewers were going to be saying goodbye to Brandon Woodruff several months ago, that they would be non-tendering him at this point? That's business in Major League Baseball. Rowdy Tellez, well, we weren't surprised. We'll talk about the non-tenders and what's going on with the Milwaukee Brewers. Busy for them on a special weekend edition here of Locked On.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here on a Friday night. I wanted to put this out there. Because of the non-tenders, the deadline was 7 o'clock on a Friday night, and here we are talking about the team is constantly going to be reshaped here in this offseason, and it kind of started this week. The Brewers made 3 trades, and we've been talking about, for the most part here in the last couple of weeks, managerial switches, but now it's time to get down to the meat of the team. And going forward, now that we got the field in place, it's time to get this team back in its position of hopefully repeating as divisional champions and going a little further in the post. Started with Brandon Woodruff. Tonight they did non-tender him, and here's what happened. The Brewers did tender contracts to Willy guys, Jake Bauers, who they traded for. We'll talk about him. Tyrone Taylor. I'm surprised at that. Corbin Burnes. He national TV show today. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Hobie Milner, Joel Payamps, Noel Payamps, I should say. Devin Williams, Rice Wilson, and the team non-tendered Rowdy Tellez, Brandon Woodruff, and Jase Medical, who wasn't on anybody's radar really. But when it comes down to Woodruff, the Brewers put a special statement out about Woodruff tonight. Said, today we had to make a very difficult decision relating to one of the best pitchers and human beings in franchise history. Matt Arnold, the Brewers GM. Throughout his 10 seasons in the organization, Brandon Woodruff has represented the Brewers with class, kindness, heart, and toughness. He's a tremendous teammate. And he goes further on. He says, we remain very open to his return to Milwaukee, and regardless of what he wears next, Woody will always be a member of the Brewers family. Sad to see. Now, as you could tell there, Arnold left the door open, but they believe they don't want to invest any money, any big-time money, into a pitcher. They don't want to spend any money on this upcoming season. Now, maybe the Brewers and Woodruff could settle on a deal. Now, Woodruff is going to test the free agent market, see what's out there. And who knows, he may come back to the Milwaukee if there isn't anything out there. I'm sure he's heartbroken and disenchanted and all that, just like Corbin Burnes was last year. But, that's Major League Baseball. That's what happens. And he came down with had he not come down with the injury, obviously he's on the team. But they non-tendered him. And, I still think, he believes he's going to come back in the second part of 2024. Just having to deal, when I say having to deal with, in the locker room with interviews, being around him and all that, just a great teammate. And, he came back, he worked his butt off to get back into the position he is now. He's working his butt off in Birmingham, Alabama, and to get his shoulder back in position because he says he's going to return this year. Now, whether it's realistic or not, that's what he says. And that's what he's going to say because he wants he wants some security there. But gosh, just think of the deal that he cost himself. Well, you can't predict injuries, obviously, but we're talking had he stayed healthy, he would have been in line for a big-time contract. Had he signed a contract a few years ago, if the Brewers would have offered, 20, 25 million, he'd be in job security. Now, that would have hurt the Brewers, but, on his end, he'd have some financial security there with 20 million, but they did not, they did not come to terms on a contract. He was under one more year under their terms, tendered him. Again, the door remains open, but who knows what's going to happen there. You just don't know. But it was just, my heart dropped a little bit tonight when that news came down. I've been sitting here all day, just combing the Twitter and the internet and all that and see what was going to happen. And, I was hoping that they were going to be able to come up with a deal. There was rumblings earlier in the day that the Brewers might try to trade him. They were trying to trade him. I don't know if that's fact or not, but there was some insiders, Major League Baseball insiders, the John Palmarosi's, guys like that, who are reporting that Woodruff was being shot by us. And a team will do when they feel like they're not going to tender you a contract or they can't come to terms with the contract, shop you around and try to see if you can get something. Obviously couldn't come up with any trade value at all, no takers, because everyone in Major League knew that the Brewers were trying to deal with value is low on the trading block at that point. And I just want a way to get him back. I just got a feeling that he's going to bounce back. But, when you think of Woodruff, God, he was good there this season. Just so good when he came back, even before the injury in April. Man, I'm just going to being a part of this team. Just a great teammate. And, of course, we remember the whole Kershaw in 2018. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. He's going to be missed within this organization. Tellez non-tendered, no surprise there. I'm not going to dance on his grave at all. 220, 314 games, 226 the average. 5.9 million would have been the tender on that, right on that ballpark. 314 games, 55 home runs, 1 inning pitch, 1 K. Closed out the clinching game, blowout game that they had earlier in September to clinch the pennant out of the division. Jase Medical, lost there. They weren't going to. I mean, when I was talking about non-tenders the other day, that name never even came up. So that's just kind of an afterthought. But the Brewers did tender Corbin Burnes. At least put the contract there. We might go down that messy road once again. Burnes was on a national show today, and he did talk about this. One statement I did take away from Burnes, he's used to he was on foul territory with Eric Kratz. Kratz has been on our show. He said he got a heartfelt call from Counsell when Counsell took the Cubs job. He said a while ago he was to an extension with the Brewers. Obviously, that door is closed. He said, I was open for an extension a couple of years ago. Now the team and I kind of see that free agency is coming. So in other words, he feels like even if this is his final year at the Brewers, he's not coming back. Free agency's in his picture. So he says he's used to the trade rumors and all that. So he's pretty much set. And I think the Brewers are obviously too. Corbin Burnes is going to test free agency. And if this is his final season with it, he's going to go in his final year. I don't see that. I can see them trading him this offseason because I don't think they're going to go. But you're going to go into next spring. You could go in the without your top 2 pitchers, Brandon Woodruff, obviously, and Corbin Burnes. If they trade him in the offseason, you're the 2 guys you relied on in this team, leaned on heavily. Those are big. Those would be big spots. And again, I don't see Corbin coming back. I don't see him coming back. They're not going to give him a megabucks deal for many reasons. We all know that. They're not going to give him the big deal. I thought maybe Woodruff was going to be the guy if they were going to sign either one. The belief out there was that Woodruff was going to get the contract. Now he's not getting anything. And I think it's likely that Burnes will get traded somewhere and they'll get some things in return. We'll talk about some more of these non-tenders and who got tender today. No big real surprises on there. We'll get to that coming up next on this weekend edition of Locked On Brewers. We spend a lot of time together. We get fired up talking about wins and losses and who's getting traded and who's getting fired. We got a great connection here. I want to tell you that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications through the folks at Jase Medical. You can get a 1-year supply of this. Go online right now, jasemedical.com. Receive a 12-month supply on your daily medications. Remember, use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for the discount as well. If you are someone you love, wants some peace of mind, you never know what there's and what's going on. The world is so crazy these days. If you need daily meds, they can take care of you right there, whether it's ED medication, daily meds, or whatever. Go to medical.com. See what's offered you. Just go to the website, jasemedical.com. See what's offered. Check out what their price plans and all that. Remember, use the promo code LOCKEDON, $20 off your purchase. Real simple to use, but we get emails over here at Locked On about just how pleased people are with the Jase case. It provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. A lot of people go into that right there, the Jase case. And for emergency use, it's right there for you. And the prices are affordable. They really are. So go to Jase Case or Jase Medical and check out the Jase Case, Jase Medical /LockedOn for the $20 off your purchase. Locked On and Jase Medical. Great to have them as a partner here on Locked On Brewers. All right, we'll come back right after this here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman here on a weekend edition of Locked On Brewers. The Brewer, Willy Adames, Corbin Burnes, as I mentioned, Adrian Hauser, no surprise there, Kobe Milner, Piamps, Taylor. I thought maybe there was a chance they wouldn't, but I think they look at the $1.7 million out there, and they're fine with that, even though they have a crowd. Taylor did come on strong in September. Devin Williams, I mentioned this the other day. I wouldn't surprise me if they traded him. $6.5 million on the tender there. I would think right in that ballpark, and you might get a good return on that. The Braves got traded they traded like 5 players for the White Sox reliever Bummer the other day. Imagine what Devin Williams could get. God, 5 players. Give me 3 quality players for Devin Williams, 3 prospects, and I'm fine because we got some guys coming out of that bullpen who I think could take that spot. Nothing against Devin. He's done a great job here, but I'm still trying to, look to the future, and I already got a surplus of guys. I think Uribe should be our year going into the next season. Wilson, they tendered Bryce Wilson, arm out of the bullpen, eater, and they tendered him a contract. So again, no real surprises. Woodruff, you thought that was going to be a case, and we'll find out more whether or not they try to work out maybe a 2-year deal, buying him out of this year and then maybe next, or maybe they didn't want to go down that road. Haven't heard from Wood. The rumors all day long where the Brewers were trying to trade him, and obviously they couldn't come up with a deal. Interesting about Corbin Burnes. We knew we had an unhappy pitcher on our hands here, and it seems like that's still the case. He says, well, English of him on the foul territory today that he knows he's not long for being a Milwaukee Brewer. Just know. One guy who the Brewers did tender today, Jake Bauers, the newest Brewer. They got him from the Yankees, traded 2 leaguers, free swinging. They feel like he's got an upside. This is kind of a Brewers deal right here. Guy's got some upside. He's out of options. Final year of arbitration. They traded the 2 minor leaguers for him. And obviously there's some at-bats to be added at first base. He played some of the corner spots in the outfield as well. Some power, some holes in his swing as well. But Brewers make a deal with the New York Yankees and get Jake Bauers. Now, to say he's going to be the starting first baseman going into the next year, I hope not. Okay? I like to see them do a little bit better at the first base spot. But we'll see what they do with Jake Bauers and what kind of role they have here. A couple other notes. Made his first move with the Cubs. He dismissed Andy Green, their bench coach. Obviously, he's going to bring in his own. I'll be curious to see who Cal brings. I don't care who he brings in, but he's not bringing in Murphy, that's for sure. Vogelbach was non-tendered by Stearns with the Mets. Hey, that's a possibility at first base. Dan hit that grand slam against the Cardinals a couple of years ago. Remember that? God, he nearly hit a park in the second deck, that walk-off. That was his highlight. All right. That's going to do it for this abbreviated edition of Locked On Brewers. Want to step in and tell you what's going on again with Corbin Burnes. They tendered him. Now the race is on to see what they're going to do here. As far as the tender, they're not going to give down. They'll probably go to arbitration on that deal. I would guess they went last year and they went this year. And if he loses, you thought he was unhappy last year. We'll see how he is this year. But I think they'll trade him. We'll see if that's before or after. All right, and then Adames, they've not heavy trade value out there right now. Hauser, I like Hauser coming back. Now, Hauser's going to be needed in the back end of that rotation right now because obviously the Brewers went a well of starting pitching to having guys move up spots in the rotation. And they're going to have to count on heavy Peralta because could be the number 1 starter going into opening day. Lots to get to here in the off season, the Milwaukee Brewers. Just wanted to come in here on a Friday night and let you know what was happening with the team. Again, Brandon Woodruff, non-tendered by the team, and my gut feeling is he's not coming back. That's just my gut feeling. Who knows? Maybe down the line. But no, talk to him on his recovery process. I've told you many times just how good of a guy he is, and sad to see a guy like that, a real bulldog and competitor, have that unfortunate injury. That injury twice during the season, and I just hope it doesn't rear and he's able to come back for his sake. And because we all like him. Yes, he'll always be part of a Milwaukee Brewer franchise, but the bottom line, he's not going to be pitching for the Brewers probably anymore. It's going to do it. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So, everybody, have yourself a good weekend.